There is always some fine live music with sensational artists at Vernon's Jazz Club, as I so often talk about, but it is the truth. And here is one big reason why. Tommy Gearhart.
Big, literally empty.
Vernon's artistic director. And I'm so happy that you're with us today. And I'm actually going to let you make the introduction of our very special guest today, veteran jazz guitarist Tony Cesarano. I love saying that name, by the way.
Yeah, I'm actually excited that he's here today. Tony Cesarano, he's a guy who doesn't like to talk about himself, but I love bragging about him. One, I'm so fortunate to get to perform with him and collaborate with him. And if you come and hear my show and you enjoy it, it's a lot to do with Tony. I call him Uncle Tony. And, you know, he's doing a lot of the arrangements. I mean, he's a very brilliant musician, great guy. And, you know, I'm happy to have him at Vernon's. He plays with me on Sundays and wherever we go and travel. And proud of him.
So fabulous. And, of course, you are a guitarist. How long have you been doing what you do?
I started when I was about 12 years old.
Wow.
And
you just knew.
So a few years now.
Just a few. Just a few years. And what's interesting to me is that you did a lot of commuting over the years because you were working in New York City and yet you were also living in New Mexico, right? So about 20 years of commuting?
Yes, that's correct, yes.
How did you do that? How did you... I'm complaining to Tommy. I can't wake up in the morning. I live 10 minutes away.
Well, I had a sublet apartment in New York, and the show at Radio City was it started at the same time every year. So it was just something I had to set up logistically to pack up my instruments and shut my house down and just get to the plane, get from the plane to the apartment to the show.
Right.
And once I was at the show, my instruments would be there, and then it was just a question of getting up every day and...
Well, let's address that. Radio City Music Hall, of course, for those of you who don't know, you played Radio City Music Hall, which is a dream for many musicians, especially when you grow up in the tri-state area, as I did. It's a dream for a child to go to see the musicians and the shows at Radio City. That's it. That was where I saw my first show ever. So what was that like for you? And tell us a little bit about the experiences.
Well, yes, it was a wonderful break, you know, in the music business.
Yes.
And to do a high-end show like that. And it was very, it was like a regular job. It wasn't, you know, you played, we did 5 or 6 shows a day, starting at 9 a.m.
Wow.
And 12 and we'd end at 12. And this would go on every day for 2 months at the height of the tourist season. And there was 35 musicians, 35 rockettes, another 35 singers and dancers, not to mention the stage hands and a huge set. And so it was being a part of this huge machine. Everything had to go. You had to be in a certain spot at a certain time, playing a certain note.
Wow.
And but it was wonderful to be part of that family. And to do that every year and see the same people. And we've met each other's wives and second wives and third wives.
Right. Speaking of family law.
Some of the musicians were married, and then they would be married to someone else, and next year you'd go back.
Hello, Doris. That's not Doris? Yeah, I get it. But I think it's amazing that you've done what you've done, because not only Radio City, which of course we're talking about, but you've also backed up many celebrities. We're looking at pictures now, backing up Mr. Tommy Gearhart right there. And you've also recorded with a lot of celebrities and traveled with many Broadway musical tours. So tell us a little bit about those.
Yes. Well, my first real big celebrity was Shirley MacLaine.
Oh, wow.
I did a show for her in New York. And then there was some other celebrities, but a lot of them, you know, Ginger Rogers came, and Liberace. We did shows with Liberace.
What was he like to work with?
Liberace was a really nice man. He loved Radio City, and he just loved show business. He loved to perform.
Well, you can see that.
Yeah, and he was a great guy. And Peter Allen, when he was alive, we did shows with him.
Oh, the real boy from Oz.
Yes.
I love Peter Allen. How exciting that must have been. Did you end up seeing The Boy from Oz?
No, I didn't get to see that.
Of course, based on his life. But I mean,
yes.
I think it's so amazing to have that kind of history. And now to be here playing on a regular basis in Albuquerque, where all of us can locally come and see you and enjoy you.
Well, yeah, and something that I appreciate with Tony is, you know, he's a guy who has a host of experiences. When he was 16 years old, he was, you know, the next greatest thing in the world. And, you know, and he plays with all types of musicians. And he's one of those guys that remind me of my hometown. You know, out in the Midwest, and you know, where the little bit, he's not an elder, but an older musician takes in some of the young guys and passes on the knowledge, and isn't pretentious about it, and is definitely a great mentor of mine, and has opened my ears and mind to the music, and you know, and he plays with a lot of people, you know, in the state, and tries to, you know, help them out if they're willing to be, you know, taught. So it's pretty great.
I think that's fabulous. And when you listen
trying to get him to blush.
Well, yeah, he's a little bit, just a little. But when you listen to the history of what you've done, I mean, it is really flattering, I would imagine, to think that he's backing you up.
Well, you know, I don't like to look at it as a backup. I mean, especially in jazz music, we look at it as we're a group, and we're constantly, you know, trying to accompany one another when that person is out front soloing. Yeah, right, exactly. And you know, aside from what he did at Radio City Music Hall and some of the Broadway musicals, I mean, as a jazz musician, pretty spectacular. And his knowledge of harmony and rhythm and you know, the music and the history is... There's not enough I can say. There's not enough time on this show to go into my appreciation.
I have to say that playing with Tommy and the guys like Chase and stuff is really been a great musical experience for me. They're great guys, and the group has a magic that you don't find. I mean, even in a professional scene like New York, where everybody's, you know, professional, they're making a living, but there's a real camaraderie, and you know, these guys have real passion for the music. I think it's really a special. That is special. Group to come out and hear some music.
It's a collaborative effort, and that's backed. What we're backed by is passion. Really, that's what you're backed by.
Yeah, and I'm happy that, you know, when we have such a nice collaboration and a group of musicians that we can play at a place like Vernon's Jazz Club, who, you know, gives us that stage every night. So
it's the best. And here's what you can expect at Vernon's Jazz Club this weekend. Let's start with Friday, the Brazil Project at 8:30. Their music is a blend of traditional, contemporary, and original Brazilian jazz, samba, and bossa nova rhythms. That sounds fun. One of the most exciting bands in the Southwest. Sounds like a good dance party, too. And Saturday night at Vernon's, Bob Tate, who you've all met, is playing piano solo at 8. And then Sunday, the Tommy Gearhart Ensemble with seatings at 5 and 7:30.
That's right.
And it is a pleasure to meet you, and it is a pleasure to have you back with us. I want to remind everybody the Vernon's websites are very simple. You can learn all about the Hidden Valley Steakhouse at
VernonsJazzClub.com.
There you go. Vernon's is the place to be. And Tommy and Tony, I love that. That sounds good together. Tommy and Tony, thank you so much. It really was a privilege to meet you.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
And thank you for being back with us, and we'll see you next week.
All right.
Good. And, of course, we'll see you after the break.